said the EU EOM based its judgment on indices from less than 1,000 polling units out of the 176,000 polling units across the country. Well, I'm being joined in this morning by the program manager elections of Yaga Africa. Recall that Yaga Africa had done a report on the 2023 elections earlier, and well, we're going to find out what it is that what difference is, or what line of difference is there between the Yaga Africa report and that of the EU. Looking at some of the recommendations made by EU, would also analyze them and find how we can better the electoral process. Some have said, look, it is normal for the ruling party to find loopholes in a report that doesn't favor them. My guest this morning is joining us, Mr. Paul James, Program Manager, Election Yaga Africa. Good morning, and thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning, and thank you for the invitation.
I am really glad that you have joined us this morning. Well, you too who's listening can be a part of the conversation when we open up the phone lines. Keep these numbers really close. 090-7353-0044 and 090-8766-8888. Mr. James, Yaga Africa had said that the 2023 elections was controversial, was marred by certain irregularities. The EU has also come out to say the same thing, and putting forward some recommendations. What would be your first reaction? What was your first reaction when you saw the EU's final report on the 2023 elections and what the presidency is saying, rejecting that report?
Well, I was actually in the room when EU released its final report, and I will be shocked if EU had not gone this direction, given that they have always come out hard on the Nigerian election. But to backtrack also to understand that EU has been observing our elections since 1999 when we had the transition to democratic rule. And then EU had never been coming up from of their own volition. It has always been at the instance of the Nigerian government. So they made it also very clear in the statement for the report that they were here on the invitation of President Buhari, and then they thought it wise that after the election they shared the report first with the presidency, after which they went to INEC, and then the third thing they did was to share the report with the public. And then for them, they said whatever they were doing was just to advise the Nigerian government based on the respect for, diplomatic respect and all of that. They can't force the government to do what is contained in the report, but they thought there are priority recommendations that, if implemented, will help to better the elections in Nigeria. But another point to make also is that, of course, they are also an interested party in the election. Of course, they have the right also to speak if they feel the outcome didn't go the way that they anticipated. The president could react. I'm not surprised, because at this moment, the president can vote back and they can buy it. There was a similar report in March, but it didn't elicit much reaction until now that they know they have completely, they are now in power. Now, the point to also note is that before the election, I am aware of heavy investment that EU did through civil society organizations in the efforts to do voter mobilization. For instance, if you recall, there was a youth vote count that happened that had, it was graced by Nigerian celebrities. It happened both in Lagos. It also happened in Abuja. The event that happened in Lagos at the Taba Balewa Square, at just that event alone, I registered over 11,000 Nigerians. And then at the one that was organized at the Old Parade Ground in Abuja, I registered about 17,000 to 18,000 Nigerians. So in a space of about 2 weeks, over 28,000 people were added to the register through the efforts of the EU. This is just the one that is public. Not to think about other efforts, other things they have also been doing with INEC that perhaps we may not be privy of. So the point to make here is that with all of this investment, there were expectations, both from INEC, both from Nigeria. So there was nothing that the EU said that is different from what other civil society group has said concerning the election. Especially if you put the results, the outcome of the first round of election, the February 25th election, of the presidential election and the National Assembly election, the point that I think every stakeholder is making is that if you look at that election and the 2019 election and the 2015 election and 2011 election, there were a lot of similarities. You see similar trends of perhaps late commencement of polls, trends of logistics concern, perennial logistics concern. We cannot be doing backward and forward movement. If you plot the performance of INEC on a chart, perhaps I'll give you this assignment today. Plot INEC's performance on a chart and you see what is happening. INEC will do well in this election. You will praise them. By the time you go to the next round of elections, you see that INEC will underperform. So it's almost becoming like a deliberate act. I said it with all sense of responsibility because if you go back from 2020, for instance, Edo election happened, Ondo election happened. We went to 2021 Anambra election. I mean, it was a watershed. We went to the 2022 February election that happened in the FCT here. This is the seat of INEC here. That election was also characterized with different sets of problems, including logistic concerns. So in one election, INEC will do well. You go to the next round of election, INEC will underperform. So, I mean, we cannot be doing the same thing and be expecting different results. There must be a hard stop to all of this thing that is happening. And that is what the EU report is saying. If you look at the EU report, I'm sincerely not sure that this report was released on Tuesday last week. I am not sure that the president fully took its time to go through this report. In the aspect where INEC didn't do well, the report highlighted it. But in the aspect where they did well, there is a portion of the report that highlighted that they didn't do well in the February 25th election, but they improved in the March 18 election. There were also aspects of the report that talks about the operational independence of INEC, which has always been a point of concern. Operational independence in the sense of the kind of appointment that are made into INEC. Some of these are constitutional concerns. For instance, it is the presidency that appoints who become the INEC chair. It is the presidency that appoints who becomes the INEC electoral commissioners in the state. Of course, when you have any president who vested interest, especially for the interest of the appointment that happened the last time.
We're going to get to some of these areas that you just touched on, some of the recommendations by INEC. But then, one of the grounds for which the presidency argues that the report by the EU wasn't well conceived and well done was because of the fact that they say, well, they had just 40 observers across the 36 states, which would amount to maybe just one observer in each of the states. Looking at the fact that Nigeria had over 176,000 polling units. And as such, the EU cannot say that it has done a credible job if it only takes a small, tiny fraction of about 1,000 polling units out of these several polling units across the country. What do you make of that argument? You also, I remember you put forward. Yes, go ahead. If you understand how most of this, I'm not speaking for EU. Let's just be very clear. I'm also an interested party in the election. I also observe the election diligently. But if you see how most of these international observers operate, what they do most times is they come and then they rely on the inputs of the people on ground. The EU mission has been on ground since the 11th of January to the 11th of February. And what they did was to deploy what they call long-term observers to the states. These long-term observers will come and meet people like you and gauge your pulse about the election. What are you thinking about the election? And so they also go meet groups that have deployed observers. For us at Yaga, for instance, for the pre-election phase, we deployed 822 observers. We had one observer in every local government for the pre-election phase. So every 2 weeks, they were gathering reports about what was happening that concerns INEC, that concerns politics, concerns around insecurities. They will gather those things and share with us. For us at Yaga, for instance, before the election, we knew INEC was not going to cover all of the polling units. We knew there were places with security concerns. It's a common knowledge that if you think about some states in the Northwest, there were places that you cannot penetrate, and these were places that INEC had polling units. We had asked INEC before the election, are you able to conduct election in all of these places? Let us start managing expectations. If you are not able to do this, there is no one had put a gun on INEC to say you must do election on this date. If you recall in 2015,
Election was postponed by 6 weeks because the Northeast said they were not ready. I mean, the security forces that were in the Northeast said they were not ready. They needed more time to do their clear out before election would be conducted. And because we want to have election across all of the country, the election was delayed by 6 weeks. This time, all INEC was trying to do was to mark their checklist that they were able to conduct election on the day they set out to conduct the election. And so we saw the challenges that happened. Before the election, there were concerns about demonetization. The then president withdrew almost every money in the circulation in the name of giving us new currency notes. We saw how that impacted means of livelihood. We saw how that impacted even the preparation for the election. But they are not saying things that we did not know. They are saying things that we knew because they got their information from people like you and I. Come the election, of course, for the election, for instance, you have some civil society groups that deploy more than 10,000 observers across the country. Yaga alone deployed over 5,000 observers. You have the civil society group that also deployed observers. And these were also groups that were getting resources from the European Union. If you read the report by the European Union, it didn't take credit for everything that it said. It was referencing how it got reports from people. I think page 66 of the report, they reference how they got the presidential report from Yaga Africa. So they reference where they got the report. If you have problems with the report, perhaps you should go meet those groups that also made that allusion or brought up those issues to the fore. But those are the issues that we know. We can't dance around them. They are the truth about our election. We just have to begin to think of a way forward how to fix this problem because they cannot continue to recur with every election. I had mentioned the fact that, I mean, for EU, the investment they did was more in the area of voter mobilization, voter education. This is an election that you had planned for 93 million Nigerians. For God's sakes, how many people participated in the election? Just 24 million. Just a quarter of that number. And if you think about the cost of conducting an election, you are preparing for election based on that number, 93 million. So imagine the money that had gone to waste because, one, maybe improper planning. Two, all the insecurity issues that we saw before the election. Three, the ethnic profiling that happened in some regions that some people were not even allowed to go to vote because they look like people from other states of the country. They are the truth that we know. Why are we shying away from them?
Now let's talk about even Yaga's reports. Yaga had raised concerns about the INEC election results viewing portal, which experienced a lot of delay. In the EU report as well, that also featured. It appeared. We're looking at this and talking about how to improve the Nigerian electoral process, and it's been as reports on the elections and the issue of the election viewing portal, which is one of the biggest controversies right now. Also looking at the fact that EU mentioned ambiguity in the electoral laws in the country. Put that side by side and help us understand what it is that Yaga's concerns were and still are currently.
Well, if you go back to the election, they were more or less predicated on two things. One strongly is about technology. This is the first time that technology was getting a legal backing. INEC was supposed to go full-fledged to deploy technology for voter authentication and also for, in some sense, transmission of results. I think Section 54 of the new Electoral Act. Now, in January of 2023, INEC deployed the last batch of the bimodal voter accreditation system, the BVAS, to the states, with the intention to do a test of these machines in the respective states. Between the 4th and the 11th of January, this exercise was conducted in the state. But nobody knew about this because, according to INEC, it is an internal routine process and it wasn't open to the public. Now, this is the first time that we are deploying technology on a massive scale. What was important was the test of those technology before you even deploy them. At that moment, I thought we should have done what I will refer to as managing expectations. If there were issues, we do crisis communication and tell Nigerians what to expect. When that exercise happened at Yaga Africa, we were able to access INEC offices in 14 states. What we realized then was there were problems. Some of them had problems of power buttons. Some of them had screen problems. Some of them, there was a state like Edo State that reported shortage of 40 of the devices. So there were different concerns, especially about connection to the internet. So that was something that we knew from January that there was this problem. No public communication around it. The second thing that INEC did that we thought was problematic was INEC decided to do a mock exercise to test the device and, of course, provide opportunity for Nigeria to see how the device will function. This happened on the 4th of February in 316 locations. You were the one that have been mentioning the number of polling units, 176,000 polling units, but INEC chose to do tests in less than 1% of the polling unit. That test happened 20 days to the election. As far as I am concerned, the Commission may have cherry-picked the best of the devices because to a large extent, those devices worked well in those locations. What was another thing that it did? Instead of INEC to use the ad hoc staff that will use the systems on election day, INEC used its own permanent staff to do that mock exercise. That mock exercise exposed a lot of inadequacies. For instance, that was also where some voters begin to realize, oh, they have been relocated to another polling unit. INEC relocated people without providing public information, public knowledge about that. That was the time the INEC decided to start doing damage control by sending text messages to people about how to identify their polling unit. For God's sake, less than 20 days before the exercise. You went into the election, like I said, the dominant expectation was that technology was going to work. That you should have expected by now that you will have increased bandwidth and whatever infrastructure that it needs to make sure that the thing works. Otherwise, even if it is not going to work, you tell Nigerians, like I said, it is better we manage expectations before we go into that election. But how do you also explain that in the same election, I could upload the results for one election, but I cannot upload results for the second election and on the same device? Of course, people will begin to make assumptions because there was no proper communication from the Commission about what was happening. In its own defense, the Commission came out to tell Nigerians that, oh, it experienced glitches. What is glitch that we cannot bring down to an ordinary Nigerian to understand what it means by glitches? So a lot of assurance in this regard, people begin to question that. You cannot be able to upload results for one election, not be able to upload the results for the second election. And the same election, the other concern was around logistics, like I said. If you look at how INEC deployed materials on election day, if you look at the southeast and the south-south, deployment of materials was delayed. If you go to 2019, in the southeast and the south-south, deployment of materials was also delayed. And so if you think about voter suppression, you may begin to assume that this is another technical way, tactical way of suppressing the votes in some parts of the country. It wasn't far from what Africa also mentioned. We mentioned this delay. We mentioned late commencement. In fact, by our own estimation, this election was a roadmap from what we used to experience at our election, especially the presidential election. The Commission redeemed itself when it went to the governorship election. But again, what is done is done. I mean, we have to begin to think about how to remedy it before we talk about future elections. How do we fix that problem? It has to go through. Perhaps we have to begin to think about some thematic approach. Like I said, there was a concern around technology that has to be fixed. There's a concern about even appointment into INEC that has to be fixed. We need to begin to think about even timing for that election. This is a country where you have 176,000 polling units, that's 3 million voters, and then you are doing election in 6 hours. Go to a neighboring country and see. Elections are between 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Then you create more opportunities for people to participate. You will plan for this for 4 years. The time will come, then you begin to restrict participation as far as I'm concerned with some of the encumbrances. What are the some of the issues of the law that the EU report is pointing out that we need to begin to talk about how to address them? Even in the application of the law, a lot of inconsistency. One state will allow people to do things this way, another state will do things differently. For instance, if you think about what became an issue after the governorship election, in Adamawa State, it became we went for supplementary in Adamawa State because the difference between the two major parties was 31,000, and it was less than the previous collected 37,000. But there are states like Kaduna State where the difference is 10,000. States like Ogun, the difference is 19,000. Or states like Enugu, the difference is 3,000. So why will you do different laws for different states?
Interesting perspectives you're bringing to the conversation. Looking at the reports as well by EU. Well, I'd love us to touch on what you mentioned. Yaga Africa is popular for championing the cause of the not too young to run act or law now. What would you be doing? What would Yaga Africa be doing to ensure that some of these constitutional, issues brought up by this 2023 election are rectified? Would you be going to the National Assembly and pressuring the National Assembly to also review the electoral laws as well as even the Constitution?
Well, I think people understand at this point that this is beyond Yaga. This is about Nigeria. And what Yaga tried to do was to provide the enabling platform for people. Yaga granted champion the not young to run bill that had reduced the age of consent in government. But there are also other extreme practices that as a people, as a nation, we need to think about or talk about how to address them. For instance, there is still the challenge of inclusivity on the part of political parties. The last time, some parties were selling their funds for as much as 100 million naira. Some parties were selling for 50 million. They may say they have done some concession for the young people by reducing the cost, but then you begin to think about other administrative charges that people have to pay, funding campaigns and all of that. So whilst on one hand there is a given that the law is there, but there are still other things that we need to address, especially on the part of the party. There was a part that people pushed that Buhari would have addressed when this when before signing the bill, the whole of Section 8 of the electoral that talks about parties. The president said those are internal processes of the party and they couldn't have touched them. I mean, we have a law that regulates people how these parties search this exorbitant bill on their forms and all of that. It will help people open up the space for more young people to be able to participate. So, I mean, there are still some party-related issues that I thought the party within it need to also begin to address if they truly want, because they can't continue to perpetuate themselves in power. The time will come that some of these people may not be able to function at the level that they are functioning, and then power necessarily will have to change hands. And it grooming the next generation to take over from them by the time that time is done. So I think, in all honesty and all sincerity, even within the party, they need to begin to have this reawakening and begin to understand that this transition will naturally happen. Are they preparing the next generation to take over from them?
Okay, let's look at another aspect of the EU report, especially the recommendations made. Impunity regarding electoral offences. Many people have said it's not enough for people to just complain and say, even if, for instance, the court says the elections wasn't properly done as such, maybe a rerun should be conducted and all. It is not enough. Then there's need to punish electoral offenders. There were people who obstructed people from going out on election day to vote. Voter suppression and oppression was recorded in this round of election in 2023 elections. And, people haven't been brought to book for such electoral offenses. What do you make of that?
Well, I think we even need to remove an EU out of this situation and be very honest to ourselves about all of this. Why we continue to see impunity in our system is because offenders are not punished in a manner that is public knowledge even happening. We do a lot of window dressing. Before the election that happened in 2022, I recall there were concerns before the election. People brought it up with the security agencies that were deployed for the election. And then the next thing you hear is, we are going to set up desks for electoral offences, we are going to do this and all of that. Election happened up to this moment. You have not heard about who was apprehended, who was prosecuted from that. Now, for the commission, what we knew is that the commission is doing too much. And there have been this request for a long time that we need to separate the constitutional powers from the commission, because at the moment, the commission will have to bring somebody that committed offense from the election and all of that, and get the cost to prosecute them. Can we have a separate election offenses commission? That bill has been before the National Assembly. What is delaying that bill? What is delaying the bill up to this moment? Now, the other point to note also, if you think about the system of electoral offenses in this country, if, for instance, I am the security official that may have apprehended somebody for committing electoral offenses, and say this offense happened in Abuja, and the security agency is in a state, for instance, in Anambra State. If this person is charged to court, you want to bring this security officer to come and testify before the court that he or she caught this person committing electoral offense. If you go to the security, they'll tell you they don't have resources for that, because the resources they have is just for the deployment on election day, nothing beyond election. So if you really want to do this, there are a lot of systemic institutional things that we need to address. We need to have a separate commission that will be responsible for electoral offenses, that also have enough resources, that is well funded, to be able to carry out this as it is supposed to. But even within the remit of what we can do as a people, it will be within the limited resources. Maybe by the time you begin to name and shame people for committing electoral offenses, it will reduce this from happening in our politics. There was an election that happened in 2019, the Kogi State election. By our record as Yaga Africa, we documented 125 critical incidents on election day alone. When we observed the national election in 2019, we documented across the country 508 critical incidents. So to just tell you that the state election alone, having more than a quarter of the incidents that we captured nationally, what does that tell you? It happened under a very tense atmosphere that people didn't have the opportunity to really express their freedom to vote for who become their governor. There were reports, that was in Biafra, so my colleagues were in Kogi. Our data center was ransacked in Kogi State. There were reports of people shooting from the air. Who have investigated that up to this moment? Who has been apprehended? Who has been prosecuted? These are not things like how we keep saying that we don't know. There are things that are before us, but what action has the government taken about that? Before the election, we also had reports about, it's not even allowing others to come and campaign in their state, to the effect that the IGP of police don't have to issue warnings. The National Security Advisor had to issue warnings. This impunity kept happening, even to keep reoccurring until after the election. Who has been prosecuted up to this moment?
Big question there. Well, the conversation continues shortly. We'll be talking about the selection. You mentioned earlier the constitutional issue of appointments of the national chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission and the other commissioners of that commission. We'll be talking about that and what your thoughts would be as regards a solution to this. Stay with us. The conversation continues. You can also join in right after now. Keep it with us.
Eagles 102.3 Abuja.
At Stella Maris Nursery and Primary School, we do not only encourage our kids to dream of success, we teach them to get up every morning and make it happen. With over 25 years of stellar educational magic, dedicated and qualified staffs, conducive and serene environment spread across Abuja, you can be sure that quality education is at your doorstep. So what are you waiting for? Make learning fun and exciting for your little ones today. The dates for entrance exams are 24th June and 12th August 2023 respectively. For more enquiries, call 0809 037 3727 or check us online at smsabuja.com. Stella Maris campuses are at Area 1, Lifecamp and Wumba, Abuja.
Eagles 102.3 Abuja.
Are you looking for an internet service that will make surfing on the internet an enjoyable one? Do you want a super fast connection to the internet? Look no further, as Eagles Internet Services is here for you, an effective internet service provider with 99% proven reliability for residential and office services. We provide unlimited internet bandwidth services of different bundles tailored to meet your desires and taste. It is reliable, affordable, with a wide coverage. You can locate them at Plot 1719 Cadastral Zone B, Kaura District, or you can call 081 33121423 or 09065765969. Eagles Internet Service. stay connected to everything you love.
Eagles 102.3 Abuja.
Has anyone told you you can talk about your business on radio for just 15,000 naira? Get a chance to talk your business for 25 minutes on The Entrepreneur. Mondays to Fridays, 3 p.m. on Eagles 102.3 FM Abuja. For more inquiries, call 090-9984-4433. 090-9984-4433. The Entrepreneur. Talk your business for just 15,000 naira. Hurry now.
All right, thank you so much for staying with us. This is Eagles Outlook on your radio experience you can count on. We're talking about the presidency rejecting the EU election observation mission report on the 2023 general election, saying, well, for them, the election, was the freest and fairest of elections ever conducted in the country. They say the EU's inability to reflect the largest and true picture of the elections, especially the presidential election, cited its inadequacy, the inadequacy of the body, that's EU now, observation mission to deploy, observers across all polling units and all a larger population of the polling units across the country may have been one of its greatest undoings. But EU is saying, well, they have other partners. They partnered with other people, to ensure that they monitored and observed the 2023 elections properly. The conversation continues. You can join in now. Share your thoughts with us on 09073530044. That is 09073530044 and 09087668888. You can send SMS and WhatsApp messages to 09097054450. Let's get to you before I bring back my guest. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, President Sholajide from Washington.
Sholajide, welcome. Let's hear you.
I really commended your guest from Yaga Africa. He has spoken very well. But I want to pinpoint one point from, I was following him. They were clamoring for electoral offensive committee. And I think that should not be. We are talking of cost of governance. So if that bill is scaled through and they open it again, you can imagine the amount of money that the federal government will spend on that. And secondly, who are they going to appoint there? Who will appoint them? Is it the presidency, or who is going to appoint those that will be in that electoral commission? That it will not become another. They put somebody from Kano there. Why do they need to put somebody from Anambra there? Are you getting it? So there are more than enough law to deal with anybody that constitutes itself illegally on election day. Police are there. Civil defense are there, and if you feel slapped, there is a law that can deal with you if you slap somebody. Not of course you carry gun, or you carry cutlass, you carry all these things. So there's only for one. Finally, Mr. President,
yes.
I keep asking EU and Yaga Africa. They just have this in Abuja here. They have position room in Abuja. That is where they were talking. I see how many of Yaga Africa staff that covered 176,000 polling units in Nigeria. How many staff of EU covered 176,000 polling units? I voted in Wuseso seats here. I tell you, those we have that we, the electorate, want civil defense. Chicken now, we don't have any other person. I'm not condemning
You did not see election observers in your polling units. You did not see any election observers.
I'm telling you the truth. I voted in Wuseso seats. See polling units, see my house. One lay person, we have one policewoman, one civil defense officer, the election or ADNEC officials, and all of us that we voted there. That is simple inside Abuja here. We are not talking of interior village in Anambra, interior village in Ogun State, interior village in Kauranamoda.
If you listen to my guest well, you must have heard him say they deployed about 8,000 observers across the country, and they had in every local government they had at least one observer, over 800 of them initially.
Prince,
yes.
8,000 compared to 176,000. You know what I'm saying? In mathematics, if you score 8,000 over 76,000, that is what we call colossal failure. Are you getting it?
Those people were deployed to observe election. It doesn't mean that they would stay in one spot or they were going to vote at one spot. They were observing elections at different places.
That is the same thing we are saying.
Did the same thing.
Prince, if somebody said my polling unit, how many minutes did he stay there? And how many minutes do we have for election? Even in Abuja here alone, how many polling booths do we have in Abuja? Just Abuja alone. We have close to 1,000 polling units in Abuja. See, I'm not condemning their report. But what we are saying is that there is no perfect election anywhere in the world. The United last election is still subjected to litigation, to hulabalu. In Kenya, in France, in everywhere. But what we are saying is that election must comply substantially with electoral acts, which our guests have spoken about. The only controversy that everyone's talking about is uploading. I keep repeating it here on this radio, that uploading, it is when you get result before you upload. Let any aggrieved or anyone that's not satisfied, let him bring that hard copy result and compare with all political parties. All this case will be raised.
All right,
God bless you. God bless
Thank
Nigeria.
you so much. God bless you. Putting forward your arguments there. Hello. Good morning. Good morning. Ogechuku.
Thank you, Yanato. Nobody should come and tell us what we know about this election. If the EU can tell you that election was rigged, even Nigerians, all of us know what is happening. The election was rigged. So you cannot come and tell us that the election was successful. Okay, why we not the one that invited the EU to come and observe our election? Now they are bringing out the results and they are countering them, telling them that they are not saying the truth. If you know that you are independent, why can't you conduct your election and call the results? And you are not independent and you invite somebody to come and help you, and the person is telling you that what he did is fraud, and you are arguing with the person. Even in some part of the country, some citizens are not allowed to, because they come from one part of the country, and we are calling ourselves one Nigeria. In this.
Okay, so EU is saying that the election exposed enduring systemic weaknesses and therefore signaled the need for further legal and operational reforms to enhance transparency, inclusiveness, and accountability. Not outwardly saying, well, the elections was rigged or anything. Especially remember that this case, the election matters are in court, so we may want to be careful the terms that we used. Maybe controversies surrounding the elections, yes, some level of disagreement, and what's it called now? A lot of political parties saying they did not agree with the outcome of the elections. Quite understandable, and those who are aggrieved and are not in agreement with the election outcomes are in court. So, well, let's put that straight, okay? So we do not just shoot ourselves in the foot while we make these arguments. All right, share your thoughts. 090-7353-0044 and 090-8766-8888. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Welcome.
I want to thank your guest. He has said it all.
What's your name, sir?
This is Innocent calling from Life Camp.
Good to have you. Go ahead. Let's hear you.
Yes, and I also want to thank the first speaker and the second speaker. See, the truth is, me that I'm speaking with you now, I am one of the ad hoc staff. Are you getting it? Mm-hmm. And there was no any election, what is it called? the one that will come and supervise you, check you, how your work is going, and all those things.
Election observer?
Thank you, sir. No election officer with us. And the policemen they gave us was only one policeman and one civil defense without hands. Are you getting it? Now, I don't know how election is being done in this country, for God's sake, for the past how many years. Now, if they are capable of doing it, why are they inviting the UE? And now what the UE are saying, they are right. Now, we are in class. The procedure for we operating the beavers and others, they taught 10 persons for one beaver. And you need to see how the class is very small. For 10 persons to use one beaver, is it everybody that will get what they are saying? Now, the is in front. Then 10 persons will be for one beaver. If your brain is not quick enough to capture what he's saying, how would one be able to do it? And on that day, we even used the beaver, and the beaver did not work. Not that anybody is telling me. I am part of the...
No, fresh testimonial there. Part of those who worked as ad hoc staff, giving testimony and saying, look, some of them, I've heard during the elections or, even after the elections, we had several of them calling on the show to say, look, some of us did not even get any training per se. And on the election day, some of the beavers machines were not functional. Some of them didn't even have the passwords to upload, results at the time. So even without the glitch, it must have been difficult for them to upload election results. Hello, good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Hannah.
Good morning to you. Welcome. What's your name, sir?
Yeah, my name is Chigozie. I'm calling from Kaduna.
Good to have you.
Yeah, I must recommend your guest that says from Yaga Africa. Yeah, he has said it all. That is the truth and nothing but the truth. In fact, we must say the truth and nothing but the truth. Now, what happened in this election, in fact, by now, if he's in a country that is running well, INEC chairman should have been, put in a hot seat where he be questioning what happened. What happened to the money that we gave him, our money that we gave him, on all the promises that he made for us, that made me to go and stay from morning till 11, 12 o'clock without eating food, because I want to participate in that election. And at the end, what happened? Because of all the promises. Now what are we saying? See, I am a voter. Do you understand? I went there to vote, and also to observe what is going on. Observe what is going on in my polling unit. It's not a matter of Yaga putting all the observers in all the whole places, all the whole polling units. You that went to that place, you are also observer. You observe what is going on. You are recording it. You have your phone that you can record. We saw, as far as you are watching, we saw a lot of things that are going on in all the polling units, some of the polling units. That's why we are there. They say when you go there after voting, stay there to do what? To protect your vote. As you are protecting it, you are doing what is going on. We are watching everything that's going on. Even when the counting is going on, we are seeing it from other places. So what are we now saying? We saw where the violence took place. Is it not through the people that were there that show us what is going on? So from there, anybody that wants to pick up what happened in this election, we pick it. So whether Yaga Africa put the whole of their observers in all the whole, no. As I'm in this place, in my polling unit voting, I will watch my phone and see what is going on in other places. So what are we saying? You that went to that place, you also observer. You can use your phone and record what is going on there. Put it on a live video. People will be seeing what is going on in your polling unit, which I did. So what are we saying? So the INEC failed us in this election, and I'm saying it, Mahmoud, to come and explain to us. In fact, as I'm saying it, if it's where the country is running well, by now that man would have been in the hot seat now, answering questions.
All right,
with all the promise that he made, and later he failed us.
We are waiting to see what the court will tell us about this election. We are just waiting to see. If anybody is giving up, I'm not giving up. Oh, I'm just waiting. Let the judge tell us what happened.
Okay.
Everyone has given their own. You have come and give their own, and they say no, that is not true. We are watching until the judge give those judges until they give their final judgment about it.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Speaking of the case in the court, the defense opens its arguments today. Let's see what comes out of that in the coming days when the judges or the justices of the Court of Appeal would make their final decision. Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Udokama, good to have you.
Happy New Week.
I wish you the same. How was your weekend?
We thank God. How many lies can you tell to cover up one lie? I think the more you tell lie, the more you expose yourself for people to know that you are lying. You see, anybody that is saying that the election was free and fair, that person will also look at black and tell you that it's a white color, because he has sworn not to say truth. Always obvious. Now, talking about EU and the Yaga Africa, their report. I think Nigeria don't need their report to say their mind or to say what happened. Because even me on my polling unit, I observed what happened. I'm talking about social media. Social media has helped us make things so easier. As I'm talking to you now, I'm in my business premises. If anything is happening here now and I video it and send it on the internet, I think that is enough evidence for any investigation. So I don't know how people will come out on a broad daylight like this and start defending things that are not supposed to be defended because they think that is their turn, or they think that he has come to them now. Let's know that whatever goes around comes around. Today, he favor you, you are speaking like this. Tomorrow, he may not favor you, and you will turn back again and lick whatever you vomit. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Udokama. Sadly, we can't reconnect with my guest at this time, but we hope to continue this conversation sometime soon and get to the bottom of it, even as we continue to observe what's going on at the Court of Appeal. Many have said, well, even if the Court of Appeal makes a judgment, it would still probably get to the Supreme Court, which would mean that there's more to this. It's really not going to end anytime soon. It's going to take a while before all of these is resolved. I'd love to say at this point that Nigeria and Nigerians need to do better. We need to find common ground and understand that elections are not a do or die affair. We need to, as a people, understand that if the process isn't, transparent enough, then we would always come back to these issues, no matter how far we've come with our democracy. It doesn't matter if we're 50 years. If we're unable to have transparent and inclusive elections, then we're always going to have these issues all the time, having the courts to decide who won the election or not, practically taking away the powers from the majority of Nigerians who are supposed to decide who should lead them. Would that be democracy, or would it be just be a few set of people at the judiciary or at the courts deciding for us? At the end of the day, we need to understand our roles as Nigerians and realize that if there's violence, if there's destruction of property during elections, if there is any form of oppression or suppression of voters, it would just make the whole process controversial. And at the end of the day, we may not even get the desired outcome. So we need, as a people, to put our hands on deck to ensure that we have transparent elections. INEC, the election management body in the country, must live up to its responsibility towards providing transparent inclusive, fair, free, and credible elections. Let's hope that this continues. We continue to talk to strengthen our democracy as a nation. I'll leave it here. Thank you to every one of you who has been a part of the conversation. Thank you to my guest, Mr. Paul James, Program Manager, Elections, Yaga Africa, for joining the conversation this morning. To all of you who sat back to listen, thank you so much. Martha will take over shortly on the Midday Extra. But before then, business news comes on. My name is Ihiana Cho Prince. Keep it with us on your radio experience you can count on.